Welcome. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 2024 Veterans Day tribute. I'm Connie Whittington, and I'm honored to be here with you all, not just as the executive assistant to the president, but as a graduate of Centenary's ROTC program when Dr. Webb was president, and I had the privilege of serving in the United States Army. The celebration of Veterans Day rests upon the treaty that ended World War I, signed November 11th, 1918 at 11:11 a.m. Armistice Day began being celebrated 105 years ago this day, on November 11th, 1919. The observance was officially changed 70 years ago in the United States to Veterans Day in 1954. Since 1789, the oath of enlistment in the armed forces has included a promise to uphold and protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We cannot overlook the importance of the commitment made by those who served and continue to serve in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and the United States Marines. As we contemplate the service of the men and women we honor today, I offer the words of Fleet Admiral William Bull Halsey, who observed that there are no extraordinary men, just extraordinary circumstances that ordinary men are forced to deal with. The men and women we honor today dealt with the extraordinary events they faced with extraordinary valor. On Veterans Day here at Centenary College, it is our distinct pleasure to pay homage to our brave veterans and their families during the annual Veterans Day tribute. At this time, would you please rise if you are able as the Barksdale Air Force Base Honor Guard presents the colors, and remain standing if you are able for the national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Barksdale Honor Guard and members of the Centenary College Choir. Please remain standing and join me in the invocation by President Emeritus of Centenary College and former commander of HMS Switha for the British Royal Navy to share the invocation.
Almighty God, we met in remembrance, gratitude, and commitment. Help us do so worthily here, where ideals are nurtured. So, first in our hearts, Lord, come memories of those times of peril, when it was your hand that brought us through, times of national peril or personal peril when you saved us. May our gratitude be as constant as your grace. Help us indeed remember and honor those who gave their lives that we might survive, to enjoy such freedom, such life. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, help us indeed remember them. Help us cherish those whose sacrifice left them without health, perhaps without limbs or peace. Bless them, Lord. Use us to bless them, especially by ensuring they have what they need. Help us understand the price paid by those who lost loved ones, often even years later, still mourning. So may we this day and every day devote something of ourselves to that cause for which our comrades died or suffered still. And dear God, help us with all our hearts. Thank and pray for those who guard us now, asking your most gracious blessing on them, that they may stay safe, yet know their duty is being well done. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Of course, I'm having issues. Sorry about that. Thank you, Dr. Webb. You all may be seated. We are proud of the members of the Centenary family who chose to serve our country in the United States military, including our alumni, faculty, staff, students, as well as their family members. At this time, I'd like to welcome Centenary student Delilah Ramirez from Austin, Texas. She is involved in many things: cheer, dance, Greek life. Her father served with the 35th Air Defense Artillery Brigade, Texas Army National Guard, 6th Infantry Division, and currently works for the Veterans Affairs as a police corporal. She will now read a portion of President Biden's Veterans Day proclamation.
Today, we honor generations of America's veterans, patriots who have stood on the front lines of freedom and kept the light of liberty shining bright around the world. Just as they have kept the ultimate faith in our nation, we must keep the ultimate faith in them. Each one of our nation's veterans is a link in a chain of honor that stretches back to our founding days, bound by a sacred oath to support and defend the United States of America. Throughout history, whenever and wherever the forces of darkness have sought to extinguish the flame of freedom, America's veterans have been fighting to keep it burning bright. As a nation, we have one truly sacred obligation: to prepare and equip those we send into harm's way and to care for them when their families when they return home. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to visit Normandy to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day alongside so many World War II veterans. Their service and sacrifice helped free the world from tyranny. We learned then what we still know now: democracy is never guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it. Today we honor all our veterans who have preserved, defended, and fought for our democracy. They prove that we are a nation that can meet darkness with light again and again, no matter how high the cost or how heavy the burden. May we all strive to be worthy of their sacrifices for us doing our part to keep the light of liberty burning bright for generations to come. In respect and recognition of the contributions our veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors have made to the cause of peace and freedom around the world, the Congress has provided that November 11th of each year shall be set aside as a legal public holiday to honor our nation's veterans. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2024 as Veterans Day. I encourage all Americans to recognize the valor, courage, and sacrifice of these patriots through appropriate ceremonies and private prayers and by observing 2 minutes of silence for our nation's veterans. I also call upon federal, state, and local officials to display the flag of the United States of America and to participate in patriotic activities in their communities. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Atkins and a few others we have in the area, Mrs. Holloman, Mrs. Maginness, thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to my boss, the 31st President of Centenary College, Dr. Holloman.
Thank you, Mrs. Whittington. Thanks to everyone for being here. It's a beautiful day after a lot of storms this last week, so we're happy to be able to celebrate with you outside. I want to thank the choir. Wonderful job, as always. Yeah, why don't you give them another round of applause. Thanks to Dr. Webb. My wife and I were up at Broken Bow in Oklahoma about 3 weeks ago, celebrating our 45th anniversary, and and my phone rang, and it came up as Don Webb. And I thought, well, what a treat, because he and I talk on the phone with some regularity, but thanks due to my lack of faithfulness, it had been a while, and so I was so glad to hear from him. And when he said, I want to make sure it's okay if I can deliver the invocation for the Veterans Day ceremony. And of course, I was overjoyed. It was such a great day, and I'm so glad you're here, Don. Thanks for being here. I was thinking about this day, and as we move forward, most of you are aware that in 2025 we'll be celebrating the bicentennial of Centenary College. Centenary College founded, obviously, in 1825 as Louisiana's first college. It was founded, as some of you know, as a public college essentially on the frontier, of course, in 1825. And I was kind of hearkening back to what it would have been like. It was in Jackson, Louisiana, north of Baton Rouge, and of course, it's hard to remember, I think, or hard for me to sort of wrap my brain around that, yeah, this was the Louisiana Purchase, was still largely unexplored. According to Stephen Ambrose in his book Undaunted Courage, when Thomas Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark out to explore the Louisiana Purchase, he actually thought there was some chance they would encounter woolly mammoths and other prehistoric animals. Of course, we weren't quite that wild down here, except in New Orleans. But consider the state of our nation. Just concluded, of course, the War of 1812, concluding in 1813, as you know, in New Orleans, the war that solidified our identity as an independent country. It also, as one source I was looking at said, it revealed the inadequacy of our United States Army. We were up against very difficult odds in many of those battles. And after the war, Congress reduced the Army even further. I was astounded to see that in 1821, by law, the Army was reduced to, get this, 6,127 soldiers. Keep that number in mind when I tell you about some of the people Colonel Maginness, the number of people Colonel Maginness commands. Now, of course, Time has rolled along, and generation after generation have faithfully served in our armed forces. I'm proud to say my father served in Europe during World War II and continued in the National Guard his whole career. Wave after wave of men and women who commit themselves to defending our country. At Centenary, we are so pleased to recognize that service by generous scholarship support for our veterans and their families. We're proud of the students that have taken advantage of that. We're proud of our servicemen and women who have come back and served on the staff and the faculty. It makes today even more special that we are able to mark their service now and in the past, and we're so glad that you are here. It's now my honor to introduce our guest speaker. Colonel Maginness graduated from Texas A&M University and was commissioned through the Officer Training School. He has served in numerous operational and staff assignments, including a B-52 aircraft commander, a weapons officer, a weapons school instructor, aide-de-camp to the commander, Air Force Global Strike Command, and commander of the 5th Mission Support Group. He has global experience in the B-52, including multiple deployments to the Pacific, European, and Central Command areas of responsibility. Colonel Maginness is a graduate of the United States Marine Corps School of Advanced Warfighting and National War College. I guess I have a nephew who just got out of the Marines as a Marine aviator. He is commanded at the squadron and group levels to include command of an operational bomb squadron in combat during Operations Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, and Freedom Sentinel. Colonel Maginness is currently the commander of the B-52 of the 2nd Bomb Wing, Barksdale Air Force, Louisiana. He is responsible for providing B-52H combat aircraft, crews, and associated support to conduct global, conventional, or nuclear operations. As Barksdale's installation commander, he supports Headquarters Air Force Global Strike Command, Headquarters 8th Air Force, Air Force Reserve Command's 307th Bomb Wing, and 30 tenant units. He promotes the welfare of more, okay, yeah, I told you to remember that 6,000 number, keep that back. He promotes the welfare of more than 11,400 military and civilian personnel, 6,300 family members, and 25,000 retirees. A command pilot, he has over 3,600 hours, including 327 combat hours in the B-52, the T-38, and the T-6. His decorations include the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Air Medal, the Air and Space Achievement Medal with oak leaf clusters, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, and the Air and Space Commendation Medal with oak leaf clusters. Please help me welcome Commander Maginness.
Well, first off, let me start out by saying a big thank you to the choir, and I think that they've packed up to 2nd Bomb Wing's Honor Guard. They always are an absolute class act in every event like this. Let me also thank Dr. Webb and Dr. Holloman for the invocation and the fine introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Centenary College, distinguished scholars, members of the community, students, guests. First, let me start out by expressing my profound thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've seen the list of previous speakers, and I do not believe I will be able to add much to their wisdom, words, and experience. However, I promise I will give it my absolute best. Veterans Day is a public holiday held on the anniversary at the end of World War I, Armistice Day, to honor U.S. veterans and victims of all wars. Armistice Day, the conclusion of the war to end all wars. The war to end all wars, which was followed shortly by World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Allied Force, Enduring Freedom, Inherent Resolve, Iraqi Freedom. In the tapestry of our nation's history, duty and honor have been the threads that we weave together in the fabric of our collective identity. It is a privilege to stand before you today and reflect on these timeless virtues that have guided our great nation through triumphs and challenges alike. It's natural to think of our country when among veterans and their families because they are inextricably linked. For veterans as a group, we are unapologetic about the values given voice in our young country's Declaration of Independence, values that grew out of enlightenment and inscribed in a constitution that veterans swear an oath to defend with their very lives. Our country gives hope to millions around the world, and those who wear the cloth of our nation, to those who surrender to fight well to keep that hope alive. Those who hold steadfast, believing in something larger than themselves, proved in fierce firefight, as well as the lonely nights standing our nation's sentry. Through service, it's made clear the choice about what kind of world we want for our nation and for our children. Not the world of violent terrorists or that of dictators. Instead, a world that is defined by Abraham Lincoln when he advised us to listen to our better angels. But Veterans Day to me is about more than just veterans. It's about all who serve. And just as faithfully as veterans serve, so do their families. This is particularly poignant to me as this esteemed venue is not my first speaking engagement of the day. I had an opportunity this morning to address an equally august audience. That, of course, was the students of Benton Middle School. Among those who serve were my son David and my daughter Katie, both 13 years old. In their 13 years, they are now living in their 7th house, 6th school, 4th state, and unknown group of friends. As the years they do not move, their friends do. However, the families of veterans are more than just those they live with currently, as the U.S. military is a family business. In 2023, over 80% of those in uniform had at least one other family member that was also in the military. This is particularly poignant to me as well. My brother served 4 combat deployments, retiring as a major in the United States Army. When I fly, in my flight bag, I fly with a map. It's a silk map. It's old. If I were to show it to you, you may recognize some of the towns on the map. Places such as Munich, Berlin, Schweinfurt, Ploesti. That map, that piece of silk, has 64 combat sorties to its name, each and every one in an 8th Air Force bomber. As a matter of fact, in each and every mission, it was flown by the last name of someone Maginness. The unique thing about this map, however, is for its first 24 combat sorties, it was in possession of my grandfather, Lieutenant George Maginness, supporting the strategic bombing campaign in 1944. The remaining 40 sorties were flown by me over Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, and a few other places I can't mention. Our veterans are more, however, than those who served and their children. It's also their spouses. I've been blessed to have my wife, Amy, by my side throughout my career. For a girl coming out of Northwest Houston, Shreveport was once the farthest north she had ever lived. In the last 18 years, she has run our family through preschool in Chicago, elementary in Washington, D.C., elementary and middle school in Minot, North Dakota, and now middle school in Louisiana. For someone who thought she would never leave the Cy-Fair School District in Northwest Houston, she is now certified to teach in 4 states. She, like all military spouses, has kept our family together through 9 deployments, temperatures of -65 Fahrenheit in Minot, North Dakota, and a couple years of COVID in Washington, D.C. Our spouses do not ask to serve, they do not get a paycheck, yet they make every sacrifice along with us. As I searched for the words to pay my respects to everyone in attendance today, I had to turn to others more articulate than I to convey what service means. Someone once said, "Our country is like a bank. If you want to take something out, you must be willing to put something in." For the veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the question of what that service meant may loom large in your minds. For far too many young men, women, and their families absolutely put something in our country's bank. Rest assured, the message was sent across the world, and especially to those who thought that by hurting us, they could scare us. As President Reagan said so well, freedom is only one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for and defended by each generation. Those who stood tall in the first years of this new century proved themselves worthy of successors in the line of veterans stretching from Bunker Hill to Shiloh to Bellawood to Iwo Jima, the Chosin Reservoir, Khe Sanh, and so many other battles. From Fallujah to the Helmand Province, from Kandahar to Hindu Kush, from the waters of the Persian Gulf to the skies overhead Kobani. You proved that today's Americans are tough, full of grit. You demonstrated to the world America's incredible determination to defend herself and preserve her freedoms. Next month, millions of Americans and other Christians worldwide will celebrate Christ's birth over 2,000 years ago. Now, we all celebrate the holidays in our own special way. Having spent multiple holidays away from loved ones in combat, I find myself often lost in my own thoughts this time of year. One of the thoughts I'm always reminded of is the many heroic tales of 8th Air Force airmen in the European theater during World War II. By mid-December 1944, General Patton's army had broken loose and was driving across France. By all appearances, the Germans were in full retreat, and the defeat of Nazi Germany appeared imminent. To everyone's surprise, just before Christmas, the Germans mounted a major counteroffensive in the Ardennes sector of Belgium under the cover of incredibly bad weather. In response, and in addition to the heroic deeds of the 101st and Patton's army, the mighty 8th Air Force assembled the largest air striking force the world has ever seen. Over 2,000 bombers and 1,000 fighters assembled in the skies over eastern England, some 20,000 young airmen in a vast aerial armada that stretched over 100 miles from horizon to horizon. That massive show of force came with a cost, and the currency was American blood and treasure. Unfortunately, strategic bombing was not effective until the mid to late 1940s. In the first 2 years of bombing from their bases in eastern England, the 8th Air Force sustained staggering losses. Combat missions presented inconceivable levels of anxiety and terror, where frostbite, oxygen deprivation, and psychological strain were even greater threats than the enemy fighters and flak. In the early years of the war, only 1 airman in 4 survived his required 25 missions. America persevered, and combat air power enabled D-Day invasion to go forward, and also opened the way for the destruction of the German war machine. Thank you to those in our greatest generation for making that ever so important deposit in our nation's bank. Today, I stand here honored to speak to you as commander of the 2nd Bomb Wing, the largest and oldest bomb wing in the world. The United States remains committed as the only free nation in the world to have a bomber force, and this is a mission that we do not on behalf of the United States Air Force. The bomber mission and nuclear deterrence is a mission we do on behalf of the nation, and quite frankly, on behalf of democratic peoples across the world who are covered by the blanket of deterrence my airmen provide daily. As I speak these words, I have over 300 airmen, a squadron of B-52s, and the might of the United States deployed to United States European Command, deterring Russia and ensuring our allies and NATO partners. My sister wing, the 5th Bomb Wing in Minot, North Dakota, has a squadron deployed to the United States Central Command as America's ultimate show of force to those in the region who would do harm to freedom-loving people. I would ask that just as we remember our veterans from previous wars, we keep close in our thoughts those who are upholding the principles of democracy we hold so dear as we speak. Matthew 24:6 states, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Until there are no wars or rumors of war, I think a quote attributed to Winston Churchill might apply. People sleep peaceable in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. Thank you again for this invitation. It's an honor to stand before you today and represent the 15,400 men, women, active duty, reservists, DoD civilians, and family members of Barksdale Air Force Base as they stand ready on your behalf, anytime, anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel Maginness. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please, to honor those men and women who have paid the highest price for us and for our country, I ask you all to stand and join with me as we observe a moment of silence, followed by the playing of taps by Dr. David Hobson, Centenary class of 1998, and the director of our choral activities and lecturer in music, and the AC Cheesy Varan choir director, eminent scholars endowed professor. Please be seated. I'd like to welcome again the Centenary Choir Ensemble under the direction of Dr. Hobson as they perform the Armed Forces Salute. I invite any and all veterans and current servicemen and women in the audience and on the stage to stand during your service's song to be recognized.
Till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count out your cannons loud and strong. 2, 3, 4, hut, 2, 3. And wherever you go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. From the halls of Montana
On behalf of the Centenary family, I want to thank you all for coming. I would like to extend a special invitation to our veterans in the audience and any elected officials available to come up to the stage at the conclusion for a quick photo opportunity with everyone. Thank you all again for joining us today, and most importantly, thank you to all of our veterans here and everywhere. Have a wonderful day.